These are hints for project 216, a fishy fish tank right here. Not doing the full project, just kind of setting you up for a few things. So read through this. They give you the intro, fish tank monitoring system, and then, hey, tell me what's wrong. They're trying to figure out some errors. Now, they already give you this evidence file. This is a zip file. So you download it, and then inside of this are the downloads and logs folders right here. All right. And now just stepping through this, there's a lot of instructions in here on what you're supposed to do. A lot of it is just do what it tells you to do. And then you have to do a little thinking. So you'll be opening first to figure out evidence number 1. You're going to be opening up the emails list. So it tells you to go into the logs folder. And here's your emails list right here. You pull up this thing and you're reading through this and you're trying to figure out, which one's the sus email? And maybe there's multiple emails in here. Use what you know about phishing attacks and think about back to the lesson on phishing attacks and how they try to mimic being a legit person and maybe they're not a legit person, or, just something that looks peculiar. Is it weird that Alice goes to dinner with JJ? Who's JJ? Is that her husband, her son, her friend, her secret boyfriend? We don't know. Maybe that's sus. I don't know. Or maybe that's not the one. So you go through this, and eventually you figure out what's weird. And then evidence 2 kind of hints at this. Okay, you suspect there's been a system breach and something was dragged into the downloads folder, right? And probably downloaded from one of those emails. So you see a bunch of things in the downloads folder, and you go, what do I suspect in here? So there's some pictures. I don't know what that's a picture of this thing. Kittens, these might be. There's some zip files in here. There's a PDF. There's this thing. I don't know. A bunch of things in here. A map to Yellowstone. Maybe where they bury the bodies. I think there's something going on in there. So, I don't know. You check out. You got to figure out what's suspect in here. And the process may take a few minutes. So, begin your documentation. All right. Oh, so you spotted files whose contents look suspicious in plain text, and you convert those contexts. So one of those things, go back to when we talked about like public and private keys, synchronous encryption. There was a program, I think it was in 212. I didn't do it in my class. Maybe 212, 213. It was weird. I skipped that part of my class. I just gave my class the spoilers. So folks, my students, it's in the document I'm making you fill out. This one. Spoilers in there. So you decrypt one of those files. And then, great, I'm done. Now, you get a bunch of files in there, or you figured out what's suspect, and then what's the third thing? You suspect the software may be incomplete. Oh no, I did this out of order. So you decide you can safely. There's something in the downloads folder. There's a bunch of Python in here. You open it up. And then you downloaded it and you try to run it. You can do this in Visual Studio Code. I actually did this all in Replit. It worked for me. So I downloaded everything in here, right? All those files. Spoilers slightly, but pretty easy to find this. And then you try to run things. Okay, well, hold on. All right, you try to run things and it don't run. Well, kind of weird. There's a bunch of different Python files in here, but we don't really have something for main because you have to find it. That's about that encrypted part. So I'll leave that up to you to figure out. But then so it's not working. And then at some point, if you should get to a point, and I want to show you that it works in Replit. It looks like this. So in Replit, you can run this thing and it'll pop up. So you don't even need Visual Studio for this. It works. And then you should get this pop up here, and then you perform the manual check. And then it says, the point here to the end is everything says it's okay, but we're getting some unexpected errors right here. And the reason we're getting 3 errors, you're like, that's weird, but it says okay. So this is where you get to debug the program, and that's where you're investigating the problems going on here. So I don't think there's some problems you got to figure out. Now, they give you this hint in here. We're talking about what are tries. Exceptions and errors. So this is, I think it's new. So one way to do error handling, you know, we've done this before, like you did like an index out of range error, you typoed something and the variable name was not referenced well. It would just kind of error out on your code and you get this bunch of red text down here and you have to figure out what's going on. So sometimes you can put some error handling in here with this try and exception stuff. And this will mean that your program can kind of run, but it'll just pop up a warning, say, hey, you had an error, but it doesn't crash your program completely. So what a program like in PH right here, it's going to run all this. But if it gets an error for some reason, I don't know if there's an error in this stuff right now. It's going to, if it gets an error at any point, you know, instead of just dying at that point, it's going to print out an unexpected error and then continue the program. So what I'm seeing is I have 3 of these. So a bunch of these are being run because they're running all these checks right here. And some of these are printing out errors. So you can use debugging. This is where Visual Studios can help you out. And you can use a debugger to step through it, and you can figure out where those errors are handling. I wish I could use Replit, but Replit doesn't work in project mode. In projects when you have multiple files. So, but you can do this in Replit. You have to figure out, my hint to this is you have to figure out which of these Python things is the error. And notice every time it has an error, it's printing out whatever this message is, right? Magnesium there, phosphate doesn't have tries. This one has errors. Salinity has errors. Temperature has errors. But they all say the same thing. You can use that because you know it's going to print. You can use that to maybe change things to figure out what 3 things are causing errors. I'll say that. Another hint for Replit, if this isn't working, we had to upload this tank image. It was doing lowercase for me. It uploaded as lowercase. You need to change it to uppercase to make the code work. Or just double check that. You might get an error like that. All right. That should work for me. And I think that's enough hints to get you going. Good luck.